Should be live. I just want to double check. Yeah, all right, okay. So we're live. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? YouTube. Stephen Ryan back for a another video. Joining me is Crafty Keela, as kind of usual now. You've kind of become a little bit of an unofficial, regular on the show, on the stream channel, whatever the fuck this is.
Yeah, you can't really get rid of me anymore, can you?
No, kind of can't. Yeah. Um, So we'll be joined a little bit later by Esther, who is the owner of the iDebate server. I'll leave an invite link to that in the description after in post. Or actually, I might. I'll double check with Esther a little bit later if I can leave it in the live chat. Anyway, so um, I had asked Leo and I had texted him, but he hasn't actually got back to me yet. So I'm not actually 100% sure what's going on there. But, maybe we'll be joined by Leo. Hopefully, we will be joined by Leo later, because I think that his kind of insight would be um, invaluable. Yeah. So, as the title of the video shall suggest, Sia went and made a movie, and it's fucking terrible. So yeah, we'll be kind of breaking down like everything. So what I like about the kind of like people that we have kind of involved in this, so Leo has said on a few occasions, so I know that he won't really mind me saying, Leo has um Asperger's, which is on the autism spectrum. So because this movie is kind of like about autism, like in general, I that's why I said that his opinion or his insight or his take would be invaluable. Hi, Manda's dropped by. um
Yay, Mama Atheist!
so the African humanist, I still have an immense love for you. I'm sorry. Where the fuck was I? Yes. So my academic background is in psychology. Keela, you said your academic background is in sociology. Is that
Yep.
correct? Yeah. So kind of, like it's and then so yeah, so like Leo was gonna have the like, almost like direct kind of is impact the right word to use? I don't know, but it's the only one that's coming to mind, so we'll just say it and go with it.
The
I,
experience.
yeah, I'll be kind of coming from my academic background. Keela will be coming from hers, and why I had asked Esther to come on is, she kind of represents, just the kind of average viewer, right? Or the, just the like average person who would watch this movie, like not going into it with um any sort of like academic bias, I guess, or like just looking at it as a movie, right? Um, so like that's kind of why I loved the setup that we or that I had. I hope Leo is going to be there. Anyhow, so a few days ago, what was it? Was it Tuesday or was it Wednesday, Keela?
Tuesday.
Tuesday. I had messaged Keela and I had said, that I had started watching this stuff and everything else like that. Sorry, yeah. So this was originally kind of said to be a blind reaction, but Keela kind of talked me out of that idea, and I'm fucking glad that she did, because holy god, is this bad? So I'm so glad that you talked me out of doing the blind reaction, but
Yeah, because when we talked about it last week, I'd only seen bits and pieces. I'd seen clips, I'd seen reactions to it, but I hadn't seen the whole thing. And then when I came off the stream last week, I was like, okay, Sunday night I watched it and I was like, holy crap. This is worse than I could have imagined. And I can imagine some horrific shit, but I was like, no, you can't actually show this movie. You can't. No, it just can't happen. So that's when I messaged you. I says, look, watch the movie. Watch the movie and react to it. Don't do a live watch of it. Please just don't do it, because it's that awful. I wasn't
yeah,
lying. I
no,
wasn't
no,
lying.
you really, really weren't, and like as as soon as you had said to me, right, as soon as you had text me and said, that like, no, like we want you to watch this like movie now, I was kind of a little bit like, fuck it, it'll still be grand even if I do a blind reaction to it. But no, like, so before I watched the movie, I had never even seen, like, I hadn't watched any of the trailers, like anything for it. I had literally seen nothing. I had just heard all of the bad shit. I had just heard that it was like a terrible movie, that it was deeply offensive to people who have. So I know myself, especially because I'm coming at this from my academic background, I know that I'm going to be saying this a lot. So ASD is what I'm going to be talking about. So ASD stands for Autism Spectrum Disorder. So essentially what that is anybody who is like deemed to be on the autism spectrum. So okay. Sorry. Technically speaking, for there to be an autism spectrum, every single person on the planet has to be on that spectrum. So where we get the word the like what the D stands for, where that applies to people is if they are like too far in one direction on the autism spectrum. So basically that's where you kind of get into Asperger's, or that's where you get into like high functioning autism, and then just autism. So yeah, I know that I'm going to be saying that a lot because I'm coming from my like, I'm trying to do this video in like a different sort of a way. I'm still going to be doing like my style reaction. I'm still going to rant. I'm still going to scream and shout and like say fuck once or twice. But yeah, I'm trying to kind of put more of that into it. So just because of that, I know that I'm going to be saying ASD a lot. So, and I have explained this for far too long. It's been like 2 minutes. Why didn't you stop me?
Because it's entertaining.
So, yeah. So where the fuck was I? God, I wish I could fucking edit because this is terrible. Where was? Yes. So, this movie was, yeah. So I think what we should kind of do, just to kind of start off, is just to kind of go into some of like the background of this movie, like before it was released, and some of the kind of like behind the scenes drama, I guess.
Sure.
So yeah, so this movie has kind of been rumored for like a long time. I think I remember back in like 2018 hearing a rumor that Sia was making a movie,
Yeah,
but then obviously it was only.
she started writing it, I think, in 2015, 2016.
Oh wow.
And then first went to the producers late 2016 and said, went around basically saying, I want to do this. She used the excuse that I have a form of autism. Now, she is very high functioning autism. But what she wanted to do was tell a story of someone that is nonverbal autism. Which is very high on the autism spectrum. So
yeah.
And with that, because her name was turning to gold, she had been on pretty much everything at that stage. It was like,
Yeah,
for
I was just going to
producers,
say, back in 2016, that was when.
she
Was
was
that when
writing
her
for,
album This Is
yeah,
Acting, or.
she was writing for a number of artists. She was not writing for herself. She had a bit of a backlash against Elastic Heart, but she had overseen it. She'd overcome it, and there was a hell of a lot going on. So it was one of those situations for, as a producer or as a movie house, you look to this person who everything turns to gold, and you think, well, it can't be that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They were
really
wrong.
can.
They were
really
very
can.
wrong.
Just a little. So as this movie, as she started coming out with information about the movie, you had people with autism starting to speak up. You had groups starting to speak up and saying, look, if you want to have this conversation, and if you want to involve these groups, then we're more than willing to work with you. And this was in the initial proper writing phase, uh, bringing it from a concept into an actual script. She ignored everybody, and anyone that had any issue, then it was their problem. She got into huge fights on Twitter various times during the production of this movie. And this is before shooting. So as shooting then started, and little bits kind of got leaked as to what was happening, she had a young girl playing the titular character of music. She resigns because it was too stressful. And because she didn't like the portrayal. Now, when, as a director, which Sia was the director of the movie, as a director, if you have someone with special needs on your set, a good director would change the practices to include and be inclusive of the person or people with special needs. Good directors can do that. Sia is not a good director. So instead, what she did was she recast Maddie, who is one of her main dancers of her videos. And she went from saying, you know, the girl didn't want to do it anymore to, I can't do a project without Maddie.
Yeah, which is, I mean, like, as excuses go, that's fairly shit, because if she can't do a project without Maddie, then why wasn't she there from day one?
Exactly.
You know? Like, that's just like a very, like, that's just gut reaction to that statement, right? Like, like you've said that to me before, but that was my gut reaction at the time. I just didn't say it. But, like, genuinely, if you can't do a project without this person, then why did you have to bring her on after it had already started? Like, why wasn't, like, if she wrote it, right, as you said, she wrote it and she directed it, then why didn't she write a part for Maddie? I mean,
Yeah.
it just seems pretty simple to me, because if you can't do it without her, then why wasn't, you know what I mean? Sorry, go on.
Yeah.
What
I
were you
mean,
saying? Sorry?
yeah, it's problematic. It's problematic at best.
Yeah. It's fuck, man. I mean, oh, yeah. So there was a lot of kind of like rumors, kind of circulating about it, and like obviously, you know, once the kind of initial main star, you know, backed out and stuff like that, it was kind of, oh God, Keela's just fucking vanished. All right, well, I guess it's just me now. I'm sure she'll be back. Yeah, so once the kind of like initial like rumors about the project, here she is back.
Sorry about that.
Keela, what happened to you?
Oh, so before the stream, I put my headphones onto Bluetooth mode, and then when I plugged them back in, they just like shit the bed. So I had to refresh.
Ah, fair enough. Fair enough. All right. What was that? Yes. So as soon as like the you know rumors or the news that you know that like she had, that the initial main star, that the initial star of the movie, the person who was going to be playing music, as soon as she had kind of backed out, that kind of started a little bit of conversation about it. Now look, obviously not many people knew like why, or not many people knew like exactly what the behind the scenes story was. It was only kind of afterwards that we kind of found out. So when these initially like started to come up, like, and once like that rumor started to go out online, nobody really knew what the story was. But it this is sort of like one of those things that like you've heard this phrase before, but it perfectly kind of sums up here. It's almost the like all encompassing like version, or like word for word definition of the phrase "doomed from the start."
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
like from the very like from early production, from before this was like even fully shot and like you know just like sent to the fucking editors, there was just a lot of negative rumors about this. It's just
Yeah, and I mean, it wouldn't have been so bad if she had taken the advice of some of the groups that were reaching out to her. Instead, um, she was creating the backlash by saying, "You don't know what you're talking about," essentially. Um, and the thing with Maddie as well, they made her extra tanned because the child in question, that as Sia wrote it, was not supposed to be Caucasian. So it's basically modern day blackface, um, which is very
yeah,
problematic.
just
Very
very,
problematic.
very,
Yeah,
very. That was offensive in the 90s. Like
like,
it's 2021 now.
but
Like that's
why it had to be interracial at all, at that point, especially when Maddie came into it, why it had to continue to be interracial, I've no idea. Especially when you have someone, um, like Leslie Odom Jr., who is an extraordinary young talent, on the set,
yeah.
and we'll get into his role in a little while.
Mm.
It's just the whole thing was strange. It was just strange from the get go. Um, I genuinely, I don't know what the producers were thinking when they gave it the
Mm.
final green light.
Yeah, like I kind of tried to like afterwards. Obviously I wasn't doing this as I was like watching it live, but kind of afterwards, like thinking back on everything that had like happened in the movie, like why Sia had kind of said that this was going to be a movie about somebody with ASD. I don't know why she did that, because essentially, apart from all of the like gruesome, and I mean gruesome, mistakes that were made in this movie, essentially this movie is just every rom-com ever, but there's an autistic child there.
Yeah, and it's. I mean, I can speak about the tenets of the movie and how Sia got it completely wrong. First of all, it's a musical, right? It was supposedly a musical. Now she is a music artist. The whole point of a musical, first off, is to create music that's going to last and stick with the audience. You want, as a musical, you want your viewers to walk away from the movie singing the songs. There was probably one ish, and that's even problematic. That was slightly memorable.
Yeah, like from a musical, like it's just pretty like even though look, and I'm like I I'm not going to talk about this kind of like any more, but just as like a frame of reference, right? Like one of the last like big musicals that was kind of out of the last couple of years. And yes, I know that there's problems with the movie and this, and that, the other thing. I know all those. I don't care. It's fantastic. I fucking love it. And this is genuinely like also one of like my kind of like favorite films of the last little while. It just happens to also be a musical. Was The Greatest Showman. I
Mm-hmm.
fucking love that movie. It's absolutely fantastic. Yes, I know that they got P.T. Barnum completely wrong. He was an absolute dickhead in person. I don't care. Hugh Jackman is a fucking treasure. Like,
Yeah,
no. Okay.
I like
So,
the movie. I like the
the
movie as well.
yeah. So, why I kind of bring that up is almost every single song in that musical is memorable, or
Yep.
almost every single one of them. Like, so, like to do a musical and to not have any of the songs even slightly memorable, like it's just a massive misstep.
Well, it's not just that they're not memorable, and she is known for writing memorable hooks. Chandelier
Mm.
and Elastic Heart were
Hmm.
two of the biggest songs of the day, and probably of the decade. Not just of the
Yeah.
day, but of the decade.
Mm.
Particularly
Yeah,
Chandelier.
I was just
Uh,
going to say,
so
yeah, Chandelier
so it's
especially.
not like, and Titanium as well.
Mm.
She's known for writing memorable songs, but what happened was when a song would come up in this movie, not only was it not memorable, barely coherent, but it was out of place. It didn't relate back to the situation that it was placed in.
Yeah, it was just like it was just like a scene would end and then or like even not even really end. Sometimes it was partway through a scene
Yeah.
and then it would just cut to a fucking musical number and it was just really really bizarre. It was like whoever or whatever team of people edited this movie knew what a colossal piece of shit it was and tried to like sabotage it in a way because it was weirdly like paced. It was like the songs just came out of fucking nowhere. It was everything about this movie is just bad.
Well, yeah, and I mean when you have a situation where you have such great actors and the first thing that they have to do when explaining the movie is defend it,
Mm.
it doesn't bode well for the movie. And I mean, I've seen interviews with some of the cast where the first thing that they do is say, "Well, it's not that bad. Come on." Oh no, it
Yeah,
is. It really is.
yeah, it is just that bad. Like, so I wanted to do this video because it's like it's a massive like cultural thing, I guess, or it's dealing with a very kind of like sensitive topic. Like it's one of those things where
Hmm.
if you do it badly, it's like automatically 10 times worse because you're dealing with such a like a sensitive thing. It would be like one other artist, and I'm not saying that she's going to or like anything else like this, but it's just because it literally just happened to her, and this is just the first kind of like big thing that if you fuck it up, it gets so bad. But even to kind of draw like a somewhat parallel, if Lady Gaga brought out a movie where like the main character or like her playing her main character, because she is actually a very good actress as well, if she was to write a story about a young woman who gets raped, because Lady Gaga was raped, and then just did it like really really badly. And why I say that it's a parallel is because Sia is ASD. She has ASD. She's on the autism spectrum. So she is on the spectrum, and she did a movie about a child who is also ASD. So it would be exactly like Gaga doing a movie where she has the main character be the victim of a sexual assault and then just completely just fuck it up. Like
Right.
it's just
Let's just. I'm just going to go through the plot just to explain to people who haven't
mm,
seen it, and please,
okay.
please don't do it to yourselves. We've done it for you. So the
Well, I
plot.
was so I was just I'm so sorry to
All right.
interrupt you. So there's certain parts that I'm going to be reacting to that I'm going to play like parts of scenes from, but
Yeah.
it's really only parts just to kind of like fully illustrate like exactly what I'm saying. So yeah, again, you're not
Okay.
going to be seeing the whole thing. It's not going to be the whole thing. It's just going to be some scenes. Sorry, continue.
Right. So the plot centers around apparently around music, who is autistic to the point that she's nonverbal. The scene opens with her mother and the neighborhood basically helping pay for stuff. So as music is going down about her day, it's made more easy. Um, and so you have that. She comes home, her grandma passes away, and her sister is brought in. Her sister is on probation. She's just out of prison. She is an alcoholic. She is violent. And the whole thing centers around her trying to come to terms with now having a dependent, almost adult. Um, Separate to that, you have I can't Edu. I can't remember his name. The Leslie Odom Jr.'s character. I can't even remember his name now. It's that forgettable. But he is African. It's never explained where in Africa he's from. He's just generic African
Mm.
who has a generic African accent, who is there to try and help her come to terms and deal with the situation with music and learn about music. He has two side three side things actually. So he has one thing is his brother is marrying his ex-wife and he wants to go to the wedding and wish them well. The second thing is he has health issues, which is established in the first kind of couple of scenes. And the third is that he has this, he trains children in boxing. Now, in that one, there's a separate thing where the lad that's going around paying for things for music for the granny is Asian, and his father is abusive verbally. But I'm not going to go further into that. We can talk about that later.
Yeah.
And everything feels just so disconnected. And then you have the landlord who also tries to take care of music as well. And midway through, you find out that the sister, who's called Kazoo, but goes by Zoo, because that's so much better. She's also a drug dealer, and this is one of the parts that really pissed me off. So Zoo goes to a new client, tells Music to get her little tantrums out of the way before she has to meet with these people because she wants to keep them as clients. And in the midst of this, Sia is there in her little cameo, and she's talking about Artists Without Borders becoming. Basically, they talk about Haiti, which is interesting because that happened. Like there's other natural disasters that happened after Haiti. Which actually I think goes to show how far back she was writing this. And the whole point of it, the plot of it, is that she's going to drop these drugs, like painkillers and stuff, into Haiti with her private plane, which she really gets excited about. And it's just the oddest cameo that I think I've ever seen, because it's just, it misses the mark so much.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, like it's just weird in general because I mean, like, look, I generally don't like when people who like or like directors make like cameos in their own stuff. Like, I generally don't like that. They like some of them are, okay, some of them are just kind of like forced. Um, but it was just the fact that she had to be like the hero of the day, the fact that she had to be like this, like, even though, that like she was doing like she was buying like drugs off of like a dealer. So, I mean, like, that's like a little bit like sketch, but then no, it's okay because she was actually doing it to help other people. It's like, I don't know. It was just a weird inclusion. The fact that she had to be like, the knight in shining armor in her own movie, but like completely separate to the main story. Like, she
Yeah.
didn't actually. Yeah, it's like it's just yeah.
And
It was
so
just weird.
basically it then culminates in this whole romantic thing between the sister and Leslie Odom Jr.'s character. And again, even that is problematic.
Mhm.
But that's the basic storyline. Music herself is used as a prop for most of the movie. Most of the movie centers around Zoo, not
Yeah,
music. It
yeah,
is all about how Zoo feels about the situation. It's explained how severely autistic music is, briefly, very briefly. But the whole thing is about how Zoo feels about the situation. Zoo going through her day and trying to interact and react. And I think it's about 80%, 85% about Zoo.
yeah.
And then the music is supposed to represent how music feels to the surrounding areas.
Mm.
There is a severely egregious thing that I have, and beyond everything else, and I know it seems like such a small little thing, but there's a part in the movie where music gets stung by a bee, and she's
Mm.
allergic. Um, and instead of what normal people do is, call an ambulance, Zoo decides to carry her to the hospital and proceeds to break down in tears, saying, "Please help, please help, please help. She's allergic." And the doctor's like, "Well, she did have an EpiPen in her pouch." Like,
Hmm.
the details that the grandmother left, Zoo never really read. As long as it didn't involve money, she wasn't interested.
Yeah. Now, look. As like a very, very, very sarcastic sort of like counterpoint to what you just said there, I did bring up in a debate very, very recently that premiered on my channel very not that long ago. You can go check that out. Um, that a cost of the ride in the wee woo wagon in the United States is $1,000. So she's not exactly strapped for cash. So I'm just it's just a slight point. It's fine.
But I mean, with that, it's the smallest little bit, but it just
Yeah.
goes to show how focused in on Zoo's character this movie is. It has there's no like so musicals. The opening numbers would usually be an introduction to the characters, and the "I Want" song, and what's known as the "I Want" song. So it
Mm,
sets the characters up as to what they aim to get by the end of the movie. That's what they mean by "I Want" song. There is no "I Want" song. There's no
yeah.
explanation of who these characters are, what they want. It's basically just the day in the life, or the week in the life of someone who has lost their grandparent and has their sister come in and look after. And but it's focused on Zoo. As I said, the whole movie, bar the opening scene, music is seen as sorry, not even seen, is used as a prop. There is no winning for her. And even in the closing scenes, um and I think we'll get to that later, because the wedding scene, god damn, like, fuck my life.
Yeah.
um but it's not until she's actually in the institution and she has no agency whatsoever, to control anything that has gone before this. But it's not until she's in the institution that Zoo has the idea that maybe she wants to keep music around. Maybe she shouldn't give her sister away to strangers. Maybe she should actually care for her herself. Um, but there's no agency for music at all throughout the entire movie. You never understand what motivates her. You never understand what she wants. Not even in that abstract dance form do you ever understand what music is there for. Why we're telling this story. What's the story we're telling about her? She's just a
Yeah.
burden to her sister. That's it. Until the end of the movie, when her sister decides to stop being a selfish cunt.
Oh, that was a was a harsh C there. Uh, no,
It's
like
justified.
it is. No, no, no. It is. Look, yeah. So I had said that like I was gonna do this, but like I was just so disappointed for how shit the movie was because like okay, so in my most played Sia songs, I'm a massive fan of Sia, right? So it's like just in my most played Sia songs. So from like least played to most played. Cheap Thrill, Chandelier, Unstoppable, Bird Set Free, Alive, Move Your Body, Big Girls Cry, Fire Me Gasoline, and Breathe Me. A criminally underrated song. I fucking love Breathe Me. Anyway, sorry. So like it like I wanted this to be good. I wanted this to be good, and as I said, like when I first kind of heard the rumors, the indications that she was going to be making a movie, I got really fucking excited about it because I was like, I'm a massive fan of Sia, of her music, of her other work. So why wouldn't I be a fan of anything that she like, any like movie that she does or anything else like that. So oh god, right, we're a little more than a half an hour into this, so we haven't actually started breaking it down yet. So I think we should probably start moving
Yeah.
swiftly along.
Yeah.
Um, So I have some notes. I have a lot of notes actually. Um, so again, I'm like going to do this, and I'm kind of like trying to switch more into like academic me rather than like me. But so as the movie like literally like opens, right, the very first scene that is on screen, like the very first thing that is on screen after the kind of opening credits is music, the child in the movie, where she's kind of like jittery, I guess, but she's also kind of hitting herself. Now I saw that, and again, coming from like an academic background, I was like, it was a very brief glimpse of hope for something that I thought was going to be like overhyped outrage, or something that I thought was going to be like something that's kind of like blown out of proportion. Because, like, yes, a lot of autistic people, especially people who are so high up on the autism spectrum where they're nonverbal, a lot of them do hit themselves. Now, from my like personal experience in working with people who have autism, even though like it looks like they're like like seriously hurting themselves, like they could be doing something, like they could be like, I don't know, like hitting themselves like with something. It's not just their fist or their hand or something. They could be hitting themselves with something, but they don't actually really like feel it. It doesn't like register as pain to them because they're reacting to being like, it could be from a lot of things. It could be like overstimulated. It could be like, a very kind of like harsh and very abrupt change to like a rigid schedule. It could be like, there could be a lot of things that could trigger something like that. But a lot of people who have autism uh will hit themselves. So yeah, I was genuinely kind of like, it was a little bit of like a ray of hope almost, but it was very quickly dashed literally by what came on directly after that. Because the opening number, the opening musical number, holy fuck. I know that Maddie Ziegler is not an actress, that she's a dancer, but fuck me. The faces that she pulls in that opening number, I mean, it's not just unnecessary, but it just made me uncomfortable. Like, it
Yep.
just made me just severely uncomfortable. And again, I've worked with people who have autism who are as bad, and I know that's terrible phrasing, I'm sorry, but who are as autistic as music is. And yet
Hmm.
they don't make those faces. Like, that's not something that happens. Like, it's
No,
it's just it.
it's stereotyping.
Yeah, and I just kind of got the impression that they were trying to like overly like shove down the eyes and the mouth and the facial orifices of the viewers, like, just like, that like this person is like, she's very high on the autism spectrum. Yeah, but like, we get that from the rest of the movie. We get that from the opening like actual scene, like like more more traditional movie scene where she's not fucking verbal. So we already get how high on the autism spectrum she is from the like first official opening scene. So we don't need to see all of the kind of like stereotypical faces. We don't need to see all of those like just ridiculously overemphasized facial expressions. We don't need that because it's obvious through the character of music, however flawed the actual character, the like, okay, like written the character is. It does like, that's obvious from the opening scene. We don't need to say that. It's just unnecessary. It's
Yeah,
unnecessary.
exactly.
I don't know if
Exactly.
you had anything else to add to that. Like, this is like traditionally how I kind of do a reaction to like a movie or like something like that. I just have like notes and shit like that, and I say them, and then I wait for other people to react. Or if you have like a branch that you want to go off of.
No, no, keep going. Yeah, I mean, it was the visual representation of what stereotypically you think of as a non-verbal autistic, and
Yeah.
it's just it's yes, the snapping. I've had friends who I have a friend whose sister is non-verbal, and she does try to hurt herself. She hits herself.
Hmm. Hmm.
She will bang her head off the wall. Like it's that bad. When she gets upset or when she gets confused, but
Hmm.
it's the overbite of and the
Yeah.
no, they don't do that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No.
Overcompensating, trying to be trying to get across the idea visually that this person is autistic. You
Mm.
don't need to do that. And in a way, it's infantilizing the audience to say you're not intelligent enough to understand that this character is autistic unless we do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. 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 It's assuming that the people who are watching it are either stupid or don't know, or like who like haven't had any like one-on-one interaction with somebody who is ASD.
Yeah.
So they're like just jamming like every like over like I can't even think. Just like yeah, just like every like negative stereotype about what someone who has ASD like looks and acts like. Yeah, so they're just like shoving that down the audience's face. Um, the second point that I had was again in the like first opening scene where music wakes up again. Like, look, I kind of found that there was like a pattern that was emerging as I was writing down these notes, which is like okay, yeah. Look, we had said last week this was going to be for the good of the rant, so we're going to go for it.
Do it.
So, there was a comedian who was Me Too that I didn't think was deserving of getting Me Too. Who was Louis C.K. Why do I feel like it's deja vu? I said that on Math Big's last stream. That's why. Um, Louis C.K. I was a huge like he shares my sense of humor. Like anyway, yeah. I like Louis C.K. All right. Anyway, point is he had a bit of material from a couple of specials ago. I think it was chewed up. I'm not. Don't quote me on that because I'm probably wrong. Um, where he had a bit. It was of course, but maybe right. And the point of that is to kind of like point out something that was like very very like obviously correct but then maybe so like but then this like negative thing about it, and that is a 100 fucking 60% how I felt about this movie. Like there was such obvious like glimmers of hope, of like positive things, of things that they were doing right or of things that they were doing correctly, where they would like start out by like trying to portray this character accurately and correctly, but then they would just fuck it up in the most colossal fucking way. Like, but like, there was just a lot of like other just missed opportunities as well. So, in one of the opening scenes, music takes two hair ties and she puts them on either wrist. Now, what people who have ASD will do with something like that is, you know, if they kind of feel themselves starting to get distressed, or if they, you know, if like something is kind of happening in their lives that they're like not 100% sure how to kind of react to, and they can kind of feel something coming on, what they will do is they will take, I will try to demonstrate, they'll take the wristband and they'll just stretch it out and then let it go, or they'll just twing it, right? So it's just that little bit of stimulation to kind of like ground them a little bit, or to kind of like counteract the negative stimulus that they're kind of feeling. Um, it's so oh god. So but then like carrying on with the scene, what happens? She goes into the room and her mother just does her hair with it. It's like dude, like it was just such a missed opportunity. It was just such like there was such promise in starting out in like trying to accurately represent what people who have ASD go through on a day-to-day basis, and trying to accurately portray this character, but they just fucked it up by putting in the most banal, stupid fucking scene of her mother doing her hair. Like it could have been something that Music's character puts those hair ties on either of her wrists, and like what the fucking mother does every fucking morning, making her two eggs and a fucking smiley face of ketchup. She could have just had some fucking spare hair ties just hanging around the house somewhere, and then just did, and like still had that where she does her hair every single morning, but just have just some semblance of accuracy in trying to portray this character. It just, oh my god, it's just so frustrating.
Yeah, and I mean, to add to that, I mean, the hairbands on the separate wrists was, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, um, that is a way of structuring the day, to create a structure, because there are a lot of autistic children who need that little bit of structure.
Mm,
Um, and so maybe having a pink band on one arm and a green band on another for separate hair ties. That was a good opportunity. But it after the first scene where Ebo comes in, and he explains the hair tie situation, it's never used again. You never see it again. Whereas the eggs make me eggs. That's repeated
yeah,
several times in the movie. Make me eggs,
it's make you eggs.
or make you eggs.
Mm. Which
But
is sort of like,
it's
is
consistency.
well, yeah, but I mean, well, it's sort of, because I mean, is she nonverbal or is she verbal?
That's the
I
problem.
get that. I get that. I get that. That some people who are autistic, who are like, largely nonverbal, will be able to do like basic things of like they'll have like some speech, but it's very 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 limited.
Yeah.
But I mean, this was marketed as somebody who is nonverbal, yet
Yeah.
she speaks.
And worse still, again, we'll get to it later, is the wedding scene. Wouldn't happen. Sorry,
Yeah,
no, wouldn't happen. It would not happen. And it's presenting, and this is the problem with the movie. And I think this is why Autism Speaks, and we should speak about them in a little while as well.
yeah,
This is why they hopped on this in the first place, was because of that scene. It was presenting, for them, it was presenting autism as an illness, as something dangerous, as something, um, in a sense, you can get rid of.
mm,
You can't get rid of autism. You
yeah,
are born with autism. I'm sorry, anti vaxxers, it's not a thing where you get vaccinations and you develop autism. You are
hmm,
born with it. It
yeah,
is not something that can be cured with by praying. That's not what autism is. It is not dangerous. It is not fucking contagious. It is not a disease. Do you know what I mean? And Autism Speaks with are one of these groups that put forward the idea that autism is dangerous, and that it can be
yeah,
gotten rid of. But I mean, and so the make you eggs thing, the only thing with that is it's done consistently throughout the film.
mm,
And I'm appreciative of that fact. Whether or not someone with such low functioning autism would be able to say those words, that sentence, in a consistent manner is one thing. But people with
yeah,
autism like structure, like things, they like, a lot of people like routine.
mm,
Routine is a big thing. You have to have your routine. So the hair bands, the hair ties is one of those routines. It's a ritual, it's a routine. Um, but it's done twice in the movie and it's never spoken of again.
yeah. Yeah, just to kind of jump on the structure part of like her day-to-day existence. Now I get that this is more kind of commonly used for like younger people who have ASD, but I mean like it's with like how low functioning autism that like they are like portraying music to have, like and like look at like this is like basic, and I mean this is like absolute basic, is a lot of people who have autism will have like a chart um with their with their routine on that chart.
Yeah.
And you know that like sometimes it kind of like differs from day to day, and but or if there's any sort of like a structure to it, like if there's anything that like what a lot of like teachers who are like teaching kids who have extra needs is like as a way of kind of solidifying so that they know what's happening later in the day, is they will uh laminate the sheet, and so it'll have, you know, like Monday, and then sometimes like all of the days, and usually it'll have the times, and they'll have like the velcro thing, and then they'll have like an activity that's on the thing, and then they'll stick it on the chart. And look, this is absolutely basic, like basic. Go to any learning institution where they are teaching people who have autism, and you will see that in every single classroom, every single one of them, every one of
Mhm.
them. It's the most basic thing, and not once is that ever showed up. The fact that like Zoo, is that her fucking
Yeah.
anyway? Whatever. Like the like fact that she kind of goes into this environment and has absolutely no fucking idea what the shit is going on, and has no idea what her routine is. They could have done something like that, where, you know, like even if they had done some like stupid, badly directed scene where like she's trying to get used to her routine, like it's just so basic. And the fact that they like missed that mark is just, oh my god, it's just fucking.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole point, isn't it? That the movie, the focus of the movie isn't helping music through her life. It is the majority of the movie is how much of a burden she is to Zoo,
Yeah,
and how Ebo is trying to explain to her that, you know, there is a person in there. She just experiences things differently. But even with that, is overtaken by abstract. And the scene where they're in the park, where he's explaining this to Zoo, is overtaken by this weird abstract dance
yeah,
that makes absolutely no sense and has no connection to what he's saying.
yeah, yeah. It's so yeah, yeah. The
But it's such a
sorry, go on.
pivotal. It's just such a pivotal moment where he's actually explaining all of these integral, important details, and it's just overshadowed and cast aside and forgotten about by this very strange, carnal, out of place, abstract dance.
Yeah, see, like this is exactly what I was talking about with the whole of course but maybe thing. Is that like that's a perfect example of it. Like that would have been an extraordinarily good scene where it kind of like took some of the stigma away. Like even what he was saying, that yes, that there's a person in there, and that like you know, like all of these like objectively positive things to say, but then just overshadowed and kind of like overtaken and tainted by this ridiculous abstract dance thing.
And
Like
then
it's just
what
the
comes
placement of
next?
things.
And then what
That
comes
was
next?
that's a point that I have. It's a
And
point
then
that I
what comes
have.
next overshadows the entire fucking thing.
Yeah.
That's all I was going to say. We'll get to that later.
Oh, we will. Oh, we will.
Good night, Tusk.
Night Tusk.
Tuscan, I don't know if Eddie is staying around, but have a good night.
Um. So the next point that I had, there might be a little bit of might be a little bit of disagreement, Keela, is
Okay.
why the fuck did her mother let her go outside on her own? I get that she has a routine, and I get that she's kind of like structured this to be like where like the people like around the neighborhood have kind of like coordinated, and like they're kind of looking after her, and they're keeping her like thing in check. But like fucking seriously, why is she outside on her own?
Right. First of all, it's the grandmother, not the mother.
Grandmother, sorry.
Yeah. So the whole point, I would have thought, is to show that people with autism can still live a somewhat normal life. And I actually liked that opening scene. I really did. I was like, okay, it can't be that bad. Until scene number 2. But yeah, and it's an important thing to remember that autistic people can go about their day. You know, they can have a routine, they can go about a routine, they can perform tasks. And it doesn't always have to be what you think it is about creating drama. Not every day an autistic, especially with low functioning autism, not every day they're going to have an episode, or not every episode is the end of the world.
Yeah.
You know, where they're screaming, they're kicking, they're hitting, they're punching, or they're self-harming. Not every episode is going to be that severe. And I liked the fact that when given the opportunity, the character was able to live a decent life.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
All right.
My sister was just gave me permission to explain this. Okay, so my nephew has sensory deficit disorder. Now, it's not recognized in Ireland, so to get help from it is very, very difficult. People know him from my streams. We call him Jonesy. So when Jonesy is having a good day, he is a perfectly normal child. There's not a bother on him. When he's having a bad day, there are times where he'll be watching his screen and you will call him. He won't hear you because he's so engrossed in what he's doing. He genuinely won't hear you. He completely zones out. And it takes a while to bring him out of that. Now, if you don't understand his level of functioning autism, then you'll just think he's being an ignorant child. He's just ignoring you, blah, blah, blah. And it's easy to lose your temper with that. And they had an opportunity to explain that in this movie. They didn't do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my sister knows a lot more about this. Do you want to explain?
There's other days where he'll just completely shut down. Emotionally. Not even just emotionally. Just will not talk, will not communicate at all. The only way we've gotten around it now is when we want him to communicate it's finding the way he's willing to communicate. Usually that's drawing a picture or writing it down. But if he doesn't want to do that, he won't do it. It's just that simple. And you have to wait until he comes out of that. So that could take 10 minutes. It could take 2 hours. And it's not until he's willing to communicate that he'll do that.
Yeah.
There's times where he's done it in school and he's sat under the table and wouldn't talk to anyone. There's other days where he will ask for me and will not talk to anyone until he rings and make sure I'm okay. Because that's just the way his head is. But it's only when he's willing to come out of it.
And to communicate.
And it's not even that he's willing to come out of it. It's only when he's able to come out of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not even a case of him understanding what's going on in his head. He does not.
He doesn't understand, yeah, because there's no reference for it.
Yeah. I've had to send him to counselling in order to get him to understand what emotions are.
Yeah.
And for a while, he could tell you what an emotion was, but he couldn't tell you if he was feeling that emotion.
Yeah.
He understood emotions.
It was detached.
But it was attached. Everything was three-dimensional. It was, yeah, I know what happiness is, I know what anger is, but when you asked him what he was feeling, he didn't know.
Yeah.
Couldn't explain it. That's why that's where the counsellor came in, and she was able to connect him to those emotions. But some days it's harder than others.
Yeah.
It really is. And it is all about learning what that one person is able to express. So whether that's in their own little, I want to say drama, but it's not drama. It's their own little function. So if you don't know that they're functioning that way,
then you're not going to know how to communicate with them.
Not at all.
We're talking about Sia's movie where the girl is non-verbal. And I'm how
lucky.
Badly they actually fucked it up.
Yeah, I'm lucky that he is verbal. Like you said, any day you wouldn't take him for a child that has autism or any issues. He's just like a normal child, like everyone else in his class, like all his little friends. And even when he went to see the psychologists, he's seen 4 psychologists in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
And the first one said he had difficulties expressing his emotions at 4. Not the last psychologist, the one before that told me he had anxiety. She'd never met him.
Yeah.
She could tell me he had anxiety. And the last one signed him off.
Yeah.
Until his counsellor stepped in and said, no, something needs to be done.
And weren't they working off the assessment?
His assessment from when he was 4.
Yeah.
So they weren't even looking at him now. He's 11. He's nearly 12. And they're working off the assessment from when he was 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But when he went into the assessment, the first assessment she done with him, he said he was having a good day. He sat and he spoke to them, and they were asking him questions, and he answered, and not about.
And this is the important part. When he was having a good day, but it turned.
No, the last assessment he had, he went into one room with the psychologist and was having a great day, was having a chat with her and everything else, and then she brought him into the room with me, and there was ties out, and all of a sudden he changed so quick. And his focus he lost it. He lost his focus completely and fixated on something that was in the room. And straight away she could go, because she had a report from his counsellor and knew what to look out for, she was able to say, I can see that now.
Yeah.
But if that report hadn't been sent in from the counsellor, she wouldn't have actually known that's what to look out for.
Exactly.
So it is all about finding out. Like the scale of autism is so wide.
Yeah.
It's such a huge scale. He's on the very mild scale of it. But even all the other kids that are on that mild scale are completely different to the way he is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Each individual is just that, an individual.
An individual, yeah.
Each case has to be taken on its own merits. You cannot compare each person with autism to the next. It's just not going to work for anyone.
Yeah, I mean,
in particular, that person and their family.
Yeah.
What kind of particularly
because especially if they're non-verbal, they can't tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
So you need to figure out.
Yeah. And the problem,
I've had to do that with him.
Yeah. I mean, the problem with the movie is the grandmother dies who knows the child.
Mm-hmm.
The sister is brought in. She's she's just on probation. She's an alcoholic, she's a drug dealer, she doesn't give a fuck. No, and the whole movie, instead of actually centering around getting to know the child, centers around her.
Yeah.
And the child becomes a burden to her. That's the whole point.
Unfortunately, that happens to so many people. It really does.
Mm.
Only I've taken the time to actually, I hate to say the words, to study my children.
Yeah.
To know what works for them and what doesn't. I was actually only her counsellor said it to me.
Millie's, yeah.
Because I'm able to explain certain things to both of them that work for them. Like when he was 6 and told me he was going back to Sega World when he was 13.
Yeah, fuck.
Told me he was Sonic.
He was convinced he was Sonic.
He was Sonic. He was going back to Sega World when he was 13, and he couldn't die. He was convinced he could not die because he could regenerate.
Yeah.
And just...
He couldn't separate the fantasy.
No, he couldn't. And I was just so lucky. Wreck-It Ralph had come out not long before that, and I was just so lucky that I remember the one scene in it where Sonic comes over the intercom and says, once you come out of your game, you can't regenerate.
Yeah.
And I was able to go, oh, actually. And he was like, oh yeah, I remember saying that. Like, he actually had himself convinced he was Sonic. There was no if, buts, or maybes about it. He was Sonic. He could not die. He was going back at 13. Until he was reminded of that one.
That once you're out of your game, once you're out of the game, you can't regenerate.
And straight away he was like, oh yeah.
Because the point of that is you can put that child will put themselves into harm's way, not understanding.
But he
the
had
danger.
done it. He dangled out of the window, the upstairs window, thinking that he was fine.
Yeah.
Talking to his friends.
Yeah.
And I didn't know he was there, only for one of my neighbours knocked on the window.
It's scary. It's scary.
So we had to do a whole thing of the house, because he thought he could dangle out the window, because if he fell, he wouldn't die.
Yep. Lock the windows.
That's what we ended up having to do. But things like that are scary, and because their brains work differently, it's scary, some of the things that can happen. And if you're not willing to pay attention to those people and teach them what they're capable of,
and also come at them from their own level,
a big time, you have to find out
on
what
their
works
terms,
for them
on their
terms. You have to explain it to them so that they're safe.
Yeah.
That's one thing we need to make. I don't let him out my sight now.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Stephen was saying. In the opening scene, she is allowed to leave the house. She goes around the neighborhood, and then comes back on her own.
Now, he's allowed out on the road, but he's not allowed off the road.
Yeah.
And if he does go off the road, he's off the road with his sister, because even though she's 2 years younger than him, she has more sense. And
yeah. I know.
But she understands him more. So, even to the extent of crossing the road, he doesn't look when he's crossing the road. He just runs.
Whereas she's
like, no,
conscious.
you have to stop, and we have to check the road, and then we can cross.
Yeah.
And she's nearly like a mammy with him.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of cute sometimes when you hear it. But because she's aware of the issues he has, she tends to mammy him a lot.
Yeah.
But that's her understanding of it.
Yeah.
Like yourself, and like Mum, we all understand his limitations. And it's all about then branching out on his limitations. But it all has to be done on his terms.
Exactly.
Can't rush it.
Exactly.
Because you're just setting yourself up for failure. And you're setting them up for failure too.
So yeah, that answers the question as to why she was allowed out.
All right, okay.
Thank you, sis.
I was, open to being proven wrong or getting a different perspective on that. But
my sister,
that was just my kind of gut reaction to it.
My sister doesn't usually talk on streams, and she's a very private person, but she is so articulate. She is just so incredible, and she is so strong for those kids. It's amazing watching how she functions with them. So to get that experience is invaluable. And I have spoken once or twice about my nephew, but to have her say it in her experience with the wealth of knowledge that she's gained, because again, she has done the research, and nowhere in this movie do you see Zoo taking that kind of initiative or that kind of interest where she actually does the research.
Yeah. I mean, it was something that your sis said, which was, leaving someone in the care of someone who's an alcoholic and a drug addict. I mean, that's just dangerous.
I mean, where the fuck was social services? Because she would have had when you're diagnosed with autism, you're given a caseworker. So where was her caseworker throughout all of this?
Yeah, like
even the initial thing was the landlord.
Yeah.
The landlord was the person that called Zoo and explained things to Zoo initially. Where was her caseworker?
Yeah, I mean, like, that's what I'm saying, right? It's like the basics was missing, like the basics was missing, and it just shows that she did like extremely little research into like finding out just what like the day-to-day life of somebody who is low functioning autism, like what that's like. And it's just, I mean, like there was a different point, but it's kind of it's in the same area as this one, which is the scene with the Asian kid that was like helping around the neighborhood. Like they're obviously like neighbors to a degree. They're like buildings that are across the street.
Yeah.
When he was putting the flashlight into her room and then basically made it go like a strobe light, like that, fuck. Like, no, you don't do that to someone who's autistic because they have like
sensitive
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like this is what I'm saying. It's the basics. Like they just fucked up those. Like if they even just had got the basics right, but just like fucked up some other stuff, it would have only been 50% bad. But they didn't even do the basics, so it's just like 100%. It's just terrible.
Yeah.
My next point, and I'm so sorry to do this to everybody who was watching it, but we just kind of have to. Oh God, no! I'm
jeez,
so
please, no.
No, fuck! I pressed X. Holy shit!
There's a reason for that.
Give me a second.
YouTube doesn't want to show it.
No, it's just no. I didn't do the fucking share video or audio thing. Oh, hopefully it'll just be back in where I had it. Please. I think so. I think it's going to be. I genuinely do think it's going to be. I think that was roughly where it was. That wasn't the exact like scene or like frame. I didn't click share audio again. I am so fucking bad at it. Like, why is it not a default? Why is it not a default?
I know.
So
this is why I have a producer, and both of my producers are in the chat, Tattie and Bacon.
Okay, well, yeah. Again, look, I'm so sorry to everybody in the live chat, but this like I can't comment accurately on this. If you are like, I can obviously, but you're not going to get like the full extent of what I'm saying if I don't show it. So I'm going to try and make it as brief as I can. But yeah, let's just
put it on ×2. Remember to share audio.
I have pressed share audio. Can you not hear it?
No. Are you sharing your screen?
No, I am not. So it was just me just watching it.
With your hair. What? What's that?
And now it's buffering, for fuck's sake.
With your hair. I don't have hair. It's too short. So I'm not with your hair. With your hair. With your hair. With your hair. I don't know how. With your hair. With your hair. With your hair.
Okay, yeah, this is it. I'm so sorry to everybody.
Hi there.
I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what to do.
Music. It's your friend Ebo. You know me. Trust me. I'm going to crash you now. Make you feel safe.
You're not hurting her.
No, I'm not. I am crashing her with my love. She will be all right. I don't like that. Try not to hit yourself like that, Music. Okay? Your friend Ebo doesn't want to see you hurt yourself like that. All right? How about some chewing gum? I know where you keep it.
With your hair. With your hair.
All right. I think I can do that.
Yeah, so that happened
Yeah.
twice.
Twice.
Twice. Now, I know I'm laughing. I shouldn't be laughing because it would be hilarious if it wasn't so dangerous, because restraining people when they're in the middle of an episode, people have died. Like, people have been killed. And what's worse is he uses the phrase, "I'm crushing her with love." That's actually what he says. Like,
that was the point in
who
that
thought that was
movie where I had to pause the film. I don't normally smoke in my room, by the way. This is just I have the house to myself tonight, and I have the window open, so it'll be gone in the morning. Anyway, normally I smoke outside, and I had to pause the film, and I had to go downstairs, and I had, I think, 4 like back to back, one after the other, because that scene is the most fucking dangerous thing that you can do to anybody who has ASD. It is like it just has everything. It has everything that is wrong. You have the sensory overload, you have the feeling of restraint, you have the feeling that like if you take the ability for them to express or to lash out, even if you want to call it that, if you take that away from them, like it just like they don't
it
know what to
perpetuates the
do
situation.
with that like energy or with that emotion or that feeling. And so it just like, if you were to actually, and I say this in the most hypothetical terms ever, because I would like to think that anybody who was watching this would have the good sense never to know to like, or to like know to never lie down on top of somebody who is autistic, who is having an episode. But if you were to do that, what happens in her calming down would like, no, that will never fucking happen. They will just freak the fuck out, and you will be escalating the situation rather than trying to end that situation. The fact that this, I know that Autism Speaks was like associated with this. Now, I don't know their reasoning for like for them distancing themselves from the movie, but like that has to be up there as one of the possible reasons, because like it's the worst thing that you could ever conceivably do to somebody who has autism, to lie down on top of them. Like,
Yep.
it's just like that scene came on, right? I want to just try and like talk through my like process of like what I was going through like when I was watching this movie. Up until that scene, up until the start of that scene, I was kind of thinking like, yeah, they've had some missteps, they haven't done everything perfectly, there's been some things that they could have done but didn't really do, and like they didn't, like, again, as I had just got talked to, I've said, I think I've said the word basics like 100 times in this stream. But like, even though they kind of missed out on something like that, like, yeah, it was going down the road of being bad but not terrible yet. That made it like irredeemable. It could have, that movie could have turned around and could have had like the perfect second half and final act of that movie, and like everything could have been like, it could have been, so the second half of that movie could have been like the most perfect portrayal of what it's like living with somebody who has ASD, like that has it ever been put to film. But just that scene alone makes this movie not only fucking terrible, but also dangerous, because people who don't know any better, people who don't have experience of what it's like working with or living with or caring for people who have ASD, might see somebody who has ASD who is having an episode, and they're like their carer or their friends or whoever is, you know, around them might not be accessible at the time, and think that that's an okay thing to do. I realize the likelihood of that happening is minimal. The point is, it's still a possibility. Like, how much damage and how much negativity you can do if you do that is like
I also want to make the point that Sia was told just how antiquated that idea is of forcible restraint. Everyone came out against it, and she issued a statement apologizing. Then she issued another statement saying other people are saying that I shouldn't apologize, so see the damn movie. Then she said she would take those scenes out. Now, you got that movie the other day, like last week. Sorry. Those scenes are still in it. So she didn't take them out. She lied. And then she deleted her. She went on another tantrum on Twitter and then deleted her Twitter. Instead of doing the right thing and taking those scenes out, she left them in and just deleted her Twitter and said, I've been cancelled.
Yeah. I just I cannot stress, I cannot like say enough just how fucking dangerous that is. Like it's I mean, you talk about missing the fucking basics, man. Like, that's like anybody who is even remotely, even for like, if if somebody went to the wrong class in college one day but was too nervous to leave 15 minutes after they realized I shouldn't be here. If you've just been to like one class on disability, or like on like anything that's even remotely in that field, like, you will know that that's you just don't do that. Like, you just don't. I just can't understand how anybody who is involved in that movie, like, I don't know, man, didn't go on like fucking strike or something if they didn't take that out. Like, it's I just.
But I mean, not only that, not only does he physically restrain her, and he's on top of her physically restraining her, but he actually utters the words when she says, you're not hurting her, are you? He says, no, I am crushing her with my love.
Yeah.
Like as bad as the situation is, that phrase, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What the actual fuck?
I had it running at 1.5 speed just to try and like trick the YouTube algorithm in case it like takes it down even just for that scene. So I mean, like, Tatty had said in the live chat that he missed him saying that, but yeah, that's probably why, because I mean, like, you can like very obviously hear him saying that if you were playing it at just normal speed. But I like, that was just the point. That was the moment of that movie where like it was irredeemable. There was nothing that could have happened after that would have made it okay. It's just like I am so rarely, like, anybody who like knows me in my own personal life, like, if you like talk to Kevin, which, yeah, I know he's not on here very often, but you know, he's busy with work stuff anyway, it's a whole thing. he will tell you that I am like extremely rarely lost for words. Like it's genuinely happened to me like less times than I have fingers like in my life where I've been genuinely lost for words, and that was like this is one of them. Like I don't know how to react to that. I don't know how to like. I mean, like, is it just that you point out what everybody else knows and what everybody else is thinking? That like that's just a fucked up thing to do, and you don't know what to like. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just genuinely just at a loss.
Yeah, I mean, how she thought that was an acceptable thing to include at all.
Yeah.
It clearly shows how little research she did. That one scene shows how little research, not only how little research she did, but the contempt for people who were trying to educate her on how to deal with those situations.
Yeah.
And contempt is the only word I can use.
Yeah, because it's not just enough of being like of being dismissive like to the advice or to the like words of wisdom that you're getting from the people around you, but I mean, like that would be bad enough, right? If you like heard it and then just kind of wafted it away as just like somebody else's opinion, but the fact that just the fact that
Like saying I didn't know that this was the wrong way to go does not absolve her from including those scenes.
but that's not even good enough. I mean,
Nope.
like it's just like
Especially in 2021. She
yeah,
has the internet. She has access to these groups. She has
exactly.
access to knowledge. She has access to, and she's rich. She's not fucking poor.
Mm.
She can actually pay to have proper advisors come in. She didn't do any of that.
Like she could have, I don't know, like gone. I mean, like obviously this was only kind of like filmed like at we're like I'm being generous in saying like probably 2 years after she had like like written it, right, or like gotten the like green light from whoever. She could have spent that time going around to like different people who work with people who have autism, right? Like going and like sitting down and talking with SNAs, talking with, you know, occupational therapists, talking with speech therapists, talking with language therapists, talking with like people who like specialize in play therapy or in art therapy or in any of these things to understand what it's like day to day, like the mundane stuff, the like non-sexy stuff, the stuff that people don't like, you know, look at or talk about or like listen to, just to get like the absolute full understanding of what it's like to live and to work with somebody who is ASD. Like the fact that she didn't do that, and like just in case anybody is sort of thinking, "Oh, I'm inferring something there." Nah, fuck that. I'm not inferring anything. If she thought that that was an appropriate scene to like fit to like write, to film, to like make it past the edit and then to release, she didn't talk to a single fucking person about absolutely anything. I get that her experiences count for something, but again, Sia is extremely high functioning autism. She's done however many albums. I know that she doesn't tour because she doesn't like her face to be revealed, although she's in the movie now, so I guess she's past that. But anyway, she hasn't toured in years. Okay, yeah, she does the like she like does all these interviews and stuff like that, but like the point is, I can't imagine, because she doesn't do that many interviews, because she doesn't tour, because she doesn't do any of the things that like any other you know, like pop star would do. She had that time, or if it like even if she didn't, she could have made time before. Like she obviously her schedule was cleared for at least some length of time whilst she was filming this. So even if she had done a couple of, like, even just a couple of weeks research before she started filming this, it would have made the difference between this scene being done and not being done. And it's like, how irresponsible and how potentially dangerous it could be that scene was included is just...
Well, do you want to know what's even worse than this? Originally, the movie was not supposed to be a musical. Way back in 2015, 2016 when it was being written. And Zoo was originally cast to be male with Shia LaBeouf. And then she changed the whole concept after seeing Kate Hudson singing, cast her and changed a whole load of the makeup of the film.
Oh, okay. Well, that's why it didn't make any fucking sense then. And
it took 3 years to edit.
That took 3 years?
Took 3 years to edit because she edited it herself.
Jesus Christ, bruv.
Yep. There you go.
Like, was she just sitting in front of like a screen with like a big ass file of like 5 hours worth of raw footage that she just shoved into an hour and a half? That's the only possible explanation that I can come up with, because it's like atrociously paced.
Yeah.
Like, obviously you've seen it, Keela. If I was to ask you the question of like what length of time you think the movie takes place over, like,
it's impossible to say.
there you go. It's like,
but it feels like a few days.
Yeah, but like that's the thing, is that there's no kind of clear passage of time over it. You know what I mean? Like, if you were to do that, like, you know, like even if you were to include like some of the bad stuff where like Zoo, you know, like first off, like doesn't know what to do, like now that she's been put in this position where she's like suddenly has music where music is dependent on her. Like, even if you kind of did like that, like even like stereotypical like movie arc of a character where, you know, she doesn't know what to do, but then she eventually ends up being, you know, just okay at like even if she had done that, it's I don't know, it's just atrociously paced. Like, you don't know whether it takes place over a year, but she still sometimes shaves her head to movie standard quality every day, or like as you just said, whether it takes place over a couple of days.
Well, I mean, you would hope, but there is a montage. There is a bit of a montage where, she is apparently getting better at being a drug dealer and being better at, I don't know. It's impossible to say what she's actually doing.
Yeah.
Where she's looking for a legitimate job, and because she can't find a legitimate job anywhere, she goes back to drug dealing. Like,
yeah.
And says, I know you, I owe you all this money. I will get it for you. Yet, no drug dealer ever would allow you to walk out.
Yeah, that wouldn't happen. Well, they probably would allow her to walk out, but after she had probably like no less than 2 broken limbs.
Yes. Or a bullet somewhere.
Or, yeah, somewhere. God, okay. Yeah, wow, this has been going on for a while. Not that I'm going to kind of like rush the ending or whatever, but I'm just kind of aware of how long it's been going on for. So I'm just going to like, you know, like maybe just kind of like put it like at like a slightly increased pace. So nobody cares about the forced romance of the, like, nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Been done to
Nobody.
death.
Not one person watching that movie was rooting for Zoo and whatever the fuck his name was. Ebo. Nobody cares. Absolutely nobody. There was an argument between the Asian kid and his dad, and he dies like a bitch. So yeah, basically just so like I don't know, there's like some argument, and the like
So
mother
yeah,
and father are kind of like arguing back and forth, and he gets a little bit rough with her, and then the kid goes over and tries to break up the fight, and he, like, I don't know, like elbows him somewhat softly in the face. He falls over, and then there's just a pool of blood under his head. So it's just like okay, see, this is what I'm saying. Like, this is
yeah.
what
So
I
the
had
the,
said
the
to.
fight was over. The young fella is learning how to box. He's not a boxer. He's a dancer. He wants to be a dancer. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
And he's being forced into the ring. And instead of attacking his opponent, he hugs his opponent. And they go home. The father is in a rage, is slaps his mother. He tries to get in the middle of it or say something about it, and then his father, in the weakest backwards punch over his shoulder, hits this 500-pound child. He falls over, and then yeah, all of a sudden there's a pool of blood. Now, having said that, it if stricken on the head wherever the hell he fell afterwards, if he hit his head off the side of the table, yes, it could kill him. But
100%.
that's never explained. You never see it, because it actually happens when he falls off stream, because it pans to the parents continuing on this fight.
Yeah.
And then the mother realizes that he's down and he's not moving, and then notices the pool of blood.
Yeah, but I mean, like, so obviously, yeah, that could have happened. Like, if he hit his head off of like the corner of a table or something like that, yes, that obviously could have happened. But that weak ass bitchy punch that he gave him is not like hard enough to knock him over. That just not happen. So yeah. Anyway, there was one other point that I had that I can't remember exactly like what scene or what part of the movie that it was, but basically, music is. And I'm trying to remember exactly like what's like, or like what was happening or something like that. But like basically, okay. So the point that I have written down is just taking into account how severe music's autism is. She would not be able to recognize the facial expressions. I'm not 100% sure what scene that's in reference to, but
Oh yes. I remember it, because when it's before Zoo goes out and gets her face smashed up, Ebo is explaining that she's taking screenshots out of the corner of her eye when she looks at you, and she looks away real quick. And so there's at one stage, she tells Zoo, Zoo tells Music to go to bed, and she's angry, and she's lost the drugs. Remember, she's lost the drugs.
yeah,
And she's angry and she's upset. And as Music is going into her room, she looks out of the corner of her eye as if she'd be able to remember all of these different facial expressions
yeah,
and catalog them somewhere.
yeah. It's just like, I know that I've said it now 200 times, but again, just basics. Like just basics. Like somebody who has ASD as severe as the character of Music is supposed to, like, it just wouldn't be, you're just not going to be able to recognize facial expressions at that point. Like, I'm sorry, like, you're just not. It I cannot overstate how badly this movie is
And I mean, and
done.
to follow on from that, that's what makes it so egregious when the wedding scene comes up. First of all, the wedding
Yeah.
scene, it's an African wedding. Nobody's paying attention to them. Their backs are actually turned. And all of a sudden, in the middle of this African wedding, a shaved white girl walks in, takes control, and says, "Let's sing a song." And as they're going to sing the song, Music starts singing the song ish. Wouldn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the last point. Obviously it was the last point because it's the final scene of the movie. But yeah, so look at some kids with ASD, or like some people with ASD, can be like obsessed with and very kind of like moved by and stuff like that by music, right? and it can play like a very kind of like an influential or like a big part of their lives. But not to, just not to the degree that is shown in the movie. Like not to that level of like consistency is coming to mind, but that's not the right word. But the like fact that she's able to like sing like even like somewhat like in tune with the music, like
And in
son,
tempo.
like yeah, and in tempo,
Tempo,
like no,
tune, everything is perfect, and she gets most of the words.
yeah,
Wouldn't
just
happen. It would
no,
not happen.
no, yeah, and again, this is supposed to be a non-verbal child.
I mean, for me, the whole point, what makes beyond just the restraining, and I think it's important to stress again how bad of an idea it is to restrain a child or an adult that's having an episode. But beyond that, the worst aspect of this movie is that music is always used as a tool. She is used as a tool in her sister's story. She isn't even the agent of her own story. There is no story centered around that girl. She gets nothing out of it except that she's not institutionalized. And somehow that should be good enough. But when you're talking about sensitive issues like this, just saying that, oh well, at least she wasn't institutionalized, that's not good enough. There is no clear direction of understanding, of development for this character. It is a two-dimensional character that is used as a plot device to further the wants and wishes of the sister, of Zoo. And for that, and that alone, makes it a shitty movie. But it also fails utterly to explain what it is like to live or care for someone who has autistic tendencies in any way, shape, or form, whether it's as severe as they classed her to be or not. There is no understanding of boundaries. There is no understanding of guidelines. There is no understanding of working with a medical team. There is no understanding of creating structures and routines. Nothing. Even by the end of the movie, you don't find out what the character of Music wants.
Yeah.
Or how she has grown through the movie. Because she doesn't grow through the movie. She exists through the movie.
Mm. Yeah.
That's what annoys me most of all. They had a chance, as you kept saying, Stephen, they had a chance to tell that story. To explain what it's like. And they failed. Absolutely and completely. And what's more, not only did they fail in doing that, anyone that speaks out against it is wrong. So they're not even listening to the people who have lived it. Like my sister as she came in and told the story of someone with high functioning autism. Even listening to my sister would have made more sense than what Sia did, which was start wars on Twitter and then throw a tantrum and storm off Twitter. So yeah, don't go watch it. It's not a good idea.
No, definitely do not watch this movie. I don't care. Like, it was like sent around. I don't know what the fuck the story with Leo is, but I had sent him the movie. Like you can get it online right now for free. I don't care. I don't care. Like you should be paid for watching this movie. Not you like shouldn't ever pay for this movie. You shouldn't even watch it for free, because like you should like after you watch this movie, there should be a link to like a form or something like that you can send directly to Sia, and she can financially benefit you from watching this movie. Like that's how fucking terrible it is.
No, there should be a button you press once you're finished that has like a giant inflatable hand that just slaps Sia in the face.
Yeah.
That's what should actually happen. Not that I'm suggesting violence.
Yes, yes, of course. We don't condone
I don't
violence
condone violence.
on this Christian YouTube channel. But yeah, it's oh god. Okay. Right. Well, we did it. We got to the end of the movie.
We
We
did.
broke it down. So, have you got anything to chill or coming up?
Well, in a few hours, 11:30 our time, UTC, I have a live stream, but it will be on Steam and Couple of Reasons channel. We do 1 week on my channel, 1 week on his. We have Sable Eagle coming on, which is going to be fun. It's a random hangout, random chat, and it's good crack. What else have I got? Actually, yeah, next week, next Friday, I have Ion Society starting. It's going to be a monthly show. I have Tattie producing, where we're going to look at issues in our society and why they're issues. So we're going to go into a little bit of the historical reason as to what led them to become issues. So the first one is Myanmar, aka Burma, if you know it as Burma, and what happened with the coup, why it happened, what led to that whole situation even remotely having a possibility of taking place. So yeah, and then that's March. April, we have Clapperjack coming on, who lives in Belarus, and we're going to go through what happened in Belarus in the last election, and since then, and what it's been like. And it's going to be, similar. It's going to go into the history of what happened after the Soviet Union collapsed, right up to what's happening now. So it's a more political stream, and then I do have the Challenging Conspiracies coming out at some point when I get around to it. But yeah, I think that's it at the moment. I think that's it.
Yeah, all sounds very interesting, definitely, for sure. The next thing that I have coming up, it's I took like a couple of, well, a minute or so just to kind of schedule it actually as we were going, as we were streaming. Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern, or 11 p.m. our time, UK, whatever. I'm doing a stream about President Biden.
Oof.
Because, and I'm genuinely not overstating this. I of course, I hope that I'm right when I say that even though Biden has been in office for less than 2 months, this is the worst week of his presidency.
Absolutely.
So just in the last week, Biden killed the $15 minimum wage, and he also bombed Syria.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
and he reopened the cage. He reopened the cages.
And he reopened the cages. So just under a different, more kind of PC term. No. They're not cages. We're not putting kids in cages. No. They're a facility. It's a facility, you see. It's not a cage anymore. It's a facility. I don't care. Like, it's the worst.
Same fucking building.
Yeah,
Same buildings.
exactly. So look, again, I hope that I'm right when I say that this is the worst week of his presidency, but we're definitely going to be talking about it. And if anybody who is watching this, or you yourself, Keela, because obviously you've been here for the entire thing, if you thought that I had a rant tonight, you ain't seen fucking nothing yet. So yeah, be there on Wednesday if you want to see probably me rant more than I had anticipated to rant in the near future. We'll put it that way. So yeah, just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who turned up. like, subscribe, all that YouTuber bollocks. I think that's actually turned into a little bit of a catchphrase for me. I say that at the end of most videos. Anyway, so yeah, obviously, thank you to Keela for coming. Keela, if you want to chill and put your link down in the live chat or like somewhere, and yeah,
I'll allow you. I will allow you to put it into the description.
Okay, all right, okay.
I'll be
fair
very
enough,
nice. I'll be very nice, and I'll allow you to do it.
fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. So yeah, until Wednesday for me anyway. And when did you say, Keela, you were going live next? Sorry.
Next I'm going live on Friday, as far as I have planned. Oh no, tomorrow. Fuck. Yes.
Yeah, I was just
life
gonna
on the
say.
flip side.
I was just gonna say. I thought it was considerably sooner than that, but okay.
Yes. See, it's 1:00. Fuck, it's 1:00. But yeah, life on the flip side tomorrow on Steam a Couple of Reasons channel, and it will be live. Well, it'll go onto my channel on Monday or Tuesday. I let him get some of the views, and then I put it up on my channel then afterwards. So it will be visible on my channel in about 2 days after the event. So.
Okay. Well, until then, thank you to everybody who came. Thank you to Keela. Thank you to Esther, who has been in the back room, who hasn't said fuck all for the entire thing, but that's okay. No hate, Esther. I love you. So yeah, until Wednesday for me and tomorrow for Keela, we will talk to you all then.
Bye, people.